Today, I'm going to talk about a car. Not this car, not this one either, not this one, or that one. And no, not even this one, even though I do really love talking about this car. But no, today I'm talking about
so you wouldn't forget her. Wish I could care less. It isn't my place to.
You see, in 2020, I was bored and looking for something interesting to do, just like everybody else. And when going for an evening walk around our neighborhood, my wife and I spotted this, a 1968 VW Beetle. And it was for sale. I was on the fence. I've never owned a classic car. I didn't know anything about VW Beetles. And to be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of work on cars in general. But my wife, being the saint that she is, talked me into it. Not realizing, of course, that that was going to change the trajectory of my life for many years to follow. So yes, I bought it. And what a wonderful little car that was. An absolute blast to drive, a ton of fun to work on, and it taught me a lot about working on cars, taking care of something old, and ultimately really helped me grow as an enthusiast. One of the things that I really wanted to do to that car is take it from the very low quality red paint job that the original owners had done to it and return it to its original Delta green. So in June of 2021, I dropped it off at a body shop thinking that it would be 4 to 6 weeks and then I would have it back. 4 to 6 weeks turned into about 2 years. This was in the middle of the pandemic, labor and supply chain, blah, blah, blah. Nearly a 2-year strip and repaint. And in that 2 years, my wife and I packed up our house in Southern California and moved out here to Tennessee. We ended up buying a house in Tennessee that we loved, and we loved almost everything about it. But one of the sore thumbs of this house was the garage. It was disgusting. So in the span of about 3 months, I completely gutted and remodeled the whole thing myself, thinking that I really wanted to have a nice garage to park the Beetle in when it was done at the body shop. And sure enough, only a few months after that, the Beetle was complete and delivered here to Tennessee. And God, it looked good in this garage. I did a whole lot more work on that car. I ended up replacing the entire interior. I put in a new steering box. I did new shocks. I did a bunch of work in the engine bay. This gross thing is the old steering box. I got it out. That was not easy. And ultimately got it to the place that I really wanted to get it to in the beginning, which is to say fully mechanically sorted and ready to enjoy. But during that process, I kept thinking about something else. Kept thinking about Porsche. I mean, now I have the garage space and I kind of know how to work on cars, so it was a natural progression for me to end up in air-cooled 911. And that is what I did. I ended up with this, a 1987 911 convertible in carmine red. They did look good in the garage together though, didn't they? That car was a lot of fun and it taught me even more about working on cars. I did all sorts of stuff to it and learned a lot about air-cooled engines, about Porsches, and about working on cars in general. While I liked that car a lot, it wasn't actually the right car for me. I ended up trading it for another air-cooled 911 later down the road. But before that, I started to get an urge to dip my toe into water-cooled 911s and felt a pull to the 996. You see, the 996 was the new 911 when I was a teenager and started to think about cars. So it was always the 911 that I was lusting after. So when I came across a forest green metallic 996 turbo on Bring a Trailer, I couldn't resist. And ultimately, I won the auction and got the car. There are many other cars in between that car and where I am today that I'll get into at another time, maybe. But I ended up selling that car after only a handful of months, and despite spending the last 2 years begging the new owner to sell it back to me, hi Austin, I couldn't kick the feeling that I didn't quite get the time with the 996 that I really wanted. And that, ultimately, is what led me to this. A 2005 996 C4S. I think probably the most frequent request I've gotten since starting this channel was to do a video talking about this car, which is really interesting to me given that the general sentiment around the 996 has been that it's the least interesting, and you might even go as far to say the most hated of all the 911s. There's very clearly a certain subset of people that are fascinated by this car, and I'm a member of that club. This is my second 996, and I firmly believe it is the underdog of the 911 lineup. And to be honest, having owned two of them now, I still can't quite figure out why people think it's the lesser of the 911s. Don't get me wrong, the 996 is imperfect, but I think there's a lot of things that are really interesting about it that only further enhance the already outstanding driving and ownership experience. Let's just look at the facts. It's a 911. It has all the incredibly charming and unique handling characteristics of a 911. It has the incredible steering feel that you would expect of a 911. The flat six engine makes all sorts of good noises. It's surprisingly practical, roomy, and spacious inside. And regardless of what people may say about the quality of the interior, it's actually a pretty nice place to be. It's quick, but not too quick. They're relatively reliable. Aside, yes, of course, from IMS bearing stuff and bore scoring. Aside from those things, yes, the engines are relatively reliable and will run very well for a very long time if they are well maintained. Also, they're not that hard to work on. It is modern enough to be comfortable and safe to drive every single day. I daily commute in this car and love every minute of it. But it's not so new that everything is controlled by computers and modules that you don't have access to. This car is from sort of a transitional period between analog and digital, and to be honest, that's reflected also in the driving experience. That is fundamental to why the 993 and the 996 are really my favorite 911s. I think both the 996 and the 993 exemplify that really well. Obviously, just on one side or another of the Porsche inflection point. But the weird thing about it is that people recognize that about the 993, and the values of those cars reflect that. But it doesn't seem like people feel that way about the 996. And I suppose there are somewhat valid reasons as to why. The IMS bearing alone, unfortunately, has destroyed this car's reputation. And while it is a problem, it's actually not that difficult to remedy permanently. The slightly less discussed, but much bigger issue really is bore scoring. I don't want to get too deep into it. There's so much information on the internet about bore scoring and lots and lots and lots of opinions. But I will say this, bore scoring is a problem. And if your car develops it, that is a very expensive bummer. It's quick. It's really quick. There's no denying that that's a big bummer because this is a really incredible era of Porsche, and to have it let down by an issue like that is just sad. And honestly, aside from these two issues, bore scoring and the IMS bearing, these engines are great. They're otherwise really pretty reliable, and they're a lot of fun. Honestly, from a driving perspective, I don't really have any notes on this car. It's kind of perfect. It feels like a 911, which to me is a compliment. It's still a relatively small car in comparison to the newer Porsches. What's not to like? I've thought about selling this car a whole bunch of times because I, just like all of you, get trapped in the allure of different. There are times when I feel like I've done this car. I don't need to do it anymore. But then I drive it and I just remember how goddamn great it is. But now I'm selling it. And by the time this video is posted, it's already gone. But why? I'm a firm believer that the perfect car exists, but only at a specific point in time. The perfect car isn't some universal one-size-fits-all machine. It's just a snapshot, a bookmark, just a reflection of who you are and what you need and what you dream about right now. When I bought that Beetle, that was perfection. It was simple, it was analog, and most importantly, it was a car that forced me to learn, to get my hands dirty, and ultimately to become a car guy. And later, that 911 convertible felt perfect too, not because it was, but because it lit that spark again. And it reminded me that joy can come from imperfection. And even from bad decisions that have good intentions. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that the perfect car does exist. But only in context. The perfect car lives at the intersection of your needs, your desires, your insecurities, and your ambitions. And that's what makes this journey so addicting. You're not just chasing cars. You're chasing the version of you that each one unlocks. And as I prepare this car to be shipped off to the new owner, I reflect on what it taught me. It taught me what I'm capable of. It taught me how much joy you can find in the unexpected. It taught me you can't believe everything you read on the internet. And it taught me once again that the perfect car does exist. Thank you, 996. You are a beautiful, spectacular, very special thing.